Hello everyone, this is Dallas, Texas, and I'm actually headed to my bank. This is the traffic. It's about 3:50 p.m. I just wanted to make a quick video about life in Dallas. Well, actually about working in Dallas, working a call center job. Specifically, yesterday I quit my job. I was working through a contractor for a major corporation here in Texas, and I don't want to mention the corporation because some of you may have UVerse or their cellular service. That was the parent company I was working for, and I know you probably know who it is since I mentioned their product, but I didn't say their name, so we'll leave it at that. But all call center jobs are not created the same. They're not equal. We all know that. And I would have to say to those of you who are considering call center, which is really just an entry-level job, I have a college degree, but I was laid off my other job, due to a work stoppage. About 600 people were laid off. I was working out in another part of Dallas at a major company. And so this is a job I found just to tide me over. But AT&T, I'm sorry, forget that I said AT&T. Let's just forget that. The company I was working through a contractor, but I'm going to say this, not all call center jobs are bad, but the company I was working for, the parent company, it was just probably one of the worst call center jobs. Not that how we were, I would say not in pay or not in benefits or anything like that. But it's a tricky job because this company's employees, they know that they can get you fired real easy. They are union, the people that work directly for the company, even if they're in the same exact position. And you're expected to take the calls and resolve the person's issue. And you really have no help. It was like two managers for about 200 people. And the problem with working for the company I was working for, not my contracting company, but the main company that we were contracted with, was the fact that by the time the calls were routed through the call center, the department I worked in, the people had so many problems with their service, and they had called in so many times, and so many managers had touched the call, and so many people had touched the call and dropped the ball on the call, people far higher than what we were working in the call center, that by the time the customer reached us, it was just a poisonous call. And that's pretty much the purpose of this video. I'm going to talk about poisonous calls, and depending on the company you work for. One thing about the company's employees, they had a leg up, not just because they were permanent, but because their managers would fight for them. And as a contractor, you know, contract employees are like stepchildren in a way, that if anything happens, I don't care if the CEO dropped the ball, if the vice president had touched the call before you, if anything happens, they roll the person at the very bottom to protect their own. And AT&T has that, the company that I'm referring to has that really, really bad. But this is what happened. A lady called in, and I actually quit the job. I quit because the older I get, I have a lower tolerance for bullshit. And, you know, we live in a right-to-work state. Texas is a right-to-work state. And a lot of people say, well, you should never quit a job on the spot and always give the company 2-week notices and always do this for the company and be afraid of the company. And if you make the company mad, the company can screw up your life and the company has... Fuck that shit. I don't live in North Korea. You understand, Americans are supposed to be free, or so I thought. So why are we walking around shaking in our boots because of what some company's going to do? But if you want to quit a job, quit a job. If the company wanted to part ways with you, they wouldn't give, most of them wouldn't give you a 2-week notice. They have a supervisor waiting at your desk. And so, people are just so afraid. We bought into this belief perpetuated by the business establishment that you're so subservient. You're more subservient to the company than the company is to you. And I think it's a give and take. And Texas is a at-will state. Your employment is at will. Either party, that's what the law says. Either party can terminate the relationship at any given time without any given notice. So if you want to walk out that job, you can. Life goes on. The sun will come up the next day. So that's what I did. I was called into the office and basically lectured on this call. Now let me tell you guys what happened. It was a lady who had their security service, the company where it's a new security service that they're pushing to the public, and they're broadcasting it and everything like that, and it's a automated home security. Well, the sales agents in the stores are just lying to these people. They're lying to them. A lot of them, not all of them, but I've encountered. It was such a problem at the company, where these people would walk into the store, let's say, with a question about their cell phone or to pick up something for the cell phone. And the sales agents would push the service to them because I guess they got commission. I don't know how they got it, but how they got paid, but I'm assuming it was by commission. And we would be slammed with calls with sales agents promising people all types of free equipment. One sales agent promised the lady a free 2-year free service where she could make up her mind in 2 years. It was just ridiculous, the calls we were getting. Let me increase my... But, and these people will call in to us livid. Just upset. They've had their homes drilled into. They've taken days off work for the technicians to come out and install everything. And so we would tell them, well, we're sorry, but you were misinformed, or we're sorry about this. And by the time the calls came to us, the sales agent had got his commission, and he just didn't care anymore. And so some of us had started calling the stores because we were told to refer the people back to the store. And the issue was the stores were so used to it happening. When the people would go back to the stores to try to get this fixed, the stores would say, well, he's no longer here. There's nothing we can do. And so the person was left to call into us. And so I can't tell you guys how many stores I called, and the sales agents would say, oh, that person's lying. Never did say it. Now, maybe some people do lie. I'm sure they do. But we were getting slammed with these phone calls of the sales agents just lying. So I stayed on. The lady had the call that came in to me. The lady was so upset she refused to go back into the store. I told her, I said, ma'am, you're going to have to go back into the store. She refused. I said, ma'am, there's nothing we can do from this level. So I called my escalations, which was billing and retention. I called my escalations. They were basically like, nope, we can't help. Sorry, go into the store. So I went to my supervisor, and I said, look, this lady is refusing to get off the phone. She's not going into the store. She's not taking no for an answer. Well, I'm on a conference call. I can't help you. So I was left on the phone with that woman, just trying to help her the best I could. So finally, I called the store, and the only way I would get the salespeople at the store and the store manager to even consider talking to this customer that they had lied to was to put her on the phone, the conference they're in, and say, okay, we've got a situation, and this lady is faced with this and faced with that, and she's going through this. Can you help? And they would just flat out say, nope, sorry, nothing we can do. And it was just such an unethical process. So I stayed on the phone, and what I did was I gave the lady a number to the sales manager, one of the general managers. Now those numbers are supposed to be, I guess, we're supposed to use those numbers at our own. We're supposed to basically use our own judgment in giving those numbers. But the woman had been through so much, and we were being slammed with so many of these calls. I said, ma'am, if they don't resolve your issue, I said, this is a number that you can call. Well, apparently the store manager took issue with that. The store manager pulled my information, found out I was a contractor, because like I said, we're like stepchildren, and sent a real finicky, fucked up email to the site manager. The site manager sent my team lead, who I had called over the day I had this phone call. I had notated in the system, called her over, explained everything. She said, okay, I'm going to look at it. They don't do shit until something comes down on their heads. So that day when she got the email from the site manager, she called me into the office and said, well, you're supposed to present a unified front, and don't say you're going to give them the number to the sales manager. I said, look, I was on the phone with that lady for an hour and a half. Nobody was wanting to help that lady. Nobody. And when nobody touched the call, they wouldn't even accept the call. Not even the managers. Like I say, some of those calls, a lot of the calls we were getting were just poisonous, where so many people had dropped the ball. And by that time, she was like, well, you know, this, that, and you didn't do this right, and you didn't. Things I had never heard of in training, things that they had never told any of us. And so by that time, I said, you know, that's it. If your manager won't fight for you, and I was one of the highest rated agents, you know, I was in the newsletter, everything. If your manager won't fight for you, and one thing about working as a contractor, the managers won't. A lot of them, they're so afraid. Everybody's afraid for their job. You mean it's like it's really not a good work relationship to be under, to be a third party under a vendor or under a contractor. And Texas is bad about that. I would say a good maybe 65% of the jobs out here, that's the only way to get hired on. And not just that, but they use these contract agencies for years. They use these temp agencies for years. They have 3, 4, 5-year commitments. You understand? I thought that was illegal. I thought that after 90 days they had to hire you. I don't know how they do it, but there is a loophole in that law that allows them where you're hired on. This is how they get around it. You're actually hired on at the temp agency and the temp agency lies to you like you're not a temp employee, and that like you're an employee of theirs, even though your temp is all day and night. And by doing that, they're able to keep you under that fold for years if you choose to stay like that. But I was not really a temp. I was hired under a company, but that was contracting. It was in a contracting relationship. To me, that's like temp. Because the minute that company says, look, business is slow, they lay off. You know, they coming after the contractors first. But it's really not a good relationship because you don't have really any job security. And when I was younger, I used to stay on jobs and take all types of abuse and listen to managers lie coming and going and pulling answers out their ass, and believe the lies that HR would tell. I don't believe it anymore now because I understand something. You understand? I understand that this is not North Korea. And if you don't like the job, you have a right to leave. And no company can hold that over your head and basically prevent you from finding other employment. And I also found out, because every job I ever have, I call the HR. And I asked the HR, I said, look, on this form, I have no choice but to give permission for you to give out all this information, but what information do you really give out? And every company I've worked for, they'll say, we only give out your dates of employment and your position, because they're afraid of litigation. You understand that they're just afraid because so much of employment, it operates in a gray area of the law where it really comes down to he said, she said. When you're rating an employee, so much depends on if the manager liked you or if the manager was a fair person, or, you know, it's just a gray area of the law. And the courts have consistently stated that if it cannot be proven true or untrue, just beyond the shadow of a doubt, then technically you can sue a company that gives out bad information on you. If they say, well, this person's a poor employee, well, technically you probably can sue somebody for that, because you may not have been a poor employee. That may have been left up to you know, somebody's interpretation of an employee, or they may have wanted you to work off the clock, or they may have wanted you to. So, you know, I just don't believe that you can never, if it suits you, quit a job. I just don't believe that we live in North Korea, and I refuse to believe that a company will lash out and hurt you and interrupt other opportunities for you. But basically the purpose of this video was just to discuss that. I would have to say that the company I worked for, the parent company, not the contracting agency, was probably one of the worst companies. It's just the worst. to work for, because that's how they operate. You know, the contracting agents are just sitting ducks. They're going to put a shield over their managers. They put a shield over their employees who are union. And the contract, everything falls back on the contract employee. I wouldn't be surprised if they routed those types of calls through the contract employees. You know, that calls that just were poisonous calls that were really should have been escalation calls to the corporate office. But I just wanted to vent about that. But right now, I'm back in the job market. I'm not worried at all. I've got an interview tomorrow. Thanks to the wonderful job market in Texas. Texas has jobs, even though many of them don't pay well. But there are jobs here. You know, but if you're looking at making real money here, you're gonna have to become a doctor, a lawyer, maybe a teacher, engineer. But it's not a place where you can really work your way up and come into a job, you know, even with qualifications and skills, making a very good salary, because it's just the wages here are very depressed here. I'm not sure why that is about Texas, why Texas has such low wages. I don't know, because the companies here are making money hand over fist, but they just don't really pay anything. I think they're taking advantage of the fact that it's so much labor moving out here. And so basically that's it. I'm going to go ahead and close out this video, my rant. I apologize for my window. As you guys can see, it's some scratches on the window, the windshield. And that's just because when we had the ice storm, I was trying to scratch through and take most of the ice off, and I have to get that fixed, get a new windshield most likely. That's it.